Hello, this is Todd Hubbs, agricultural economist at the University of Illinois. Today I'm talking about my weekly outlook, Soybean Exports, Acreage, and Yield from June 15th, 2020. If you follow my weekly outlooks and the videos I make, a couple of weeks ago I was writing about the possibility of a seasonal price rally in soybeans, and last week we really saw that take off on expanded Chinese buying of soybeans. A lot of that was for the next marketing year, but nonetheless, it's a positive sign for them maybe trying to meet their phase one trade commitments with all the uncertainty we've had around that process thus far this year. There's still a lot of uncertainty around the COVID impacts on the economy, and I think that's going to stick around for quite some time. The speculation about this rally continuing, I think, relies mostly on China continuing to buy soybeans from us. Soybean crop's in the ground for the most part, and it's off to a pretty good start, so any kind of weather premium might be hard to come by. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the exports and what I see moving forward, and then where I see the crop being as we get deeper into the growing season. So what you're seeing here is U.S. soybean exports by marketing year and our three main export markets when they have the year finished. We aren't done with 1920 yet. In last week's WASDE report, the USDA lowered exports another 25 million bushels. When you look at export sales and the current pace of export inspections, it appears to me that we're on pace to hit that 1.65 billion bushels this year. We may see it eclipse that a little bit, but it should be around that number when it's all said and done. The real action's in 2020-21, where USDA is projecting 2.05 billion bushels. For us to hit that number, we need to see a good economic recovery, not just here but abroad, and we need to see China buy in levels that we saw previous to the trade impasse we went through that started in the 18-19 marketing year. Thus far, the next year's marketing sales are off to a good start. They're at levels we haven't seen since pre-trade war times, and I think that's a positive development. Now, as we move into the 2021 marketing, I think there's going to be some stiff competition as Brazil is projected to put out a record crop, and I don't see any reason for that not to happen, barring some kind of crop shortfall. So I think you could see, if our relationship deteriorates with China as we move through the 2021 marketing year, them turning back to Brazil in a strong way. Right now, I'm optimistic that we'll see something around the 2.05 billion bushels, but I wouldn't be surprised if we came short. But these recent export sales for next marketing year have been really strong, and I think that's a positive development. The 2020 soybean crop's off to a really good start. We're above the 5-year average for planting pace, and the crop's conditions is really good as well. Just a reminder, this is NASA's data on the March prospective plantings report, the kind of acreage we're going to see. Right now, the estimate's 83.5 million acres, which is about 7.4 million acres more than last year. It's still below what we were doing before the trade war started. I wouldn't be surprised if we bought a few acres with these recent rallies. We'll find out in the June acreage report on June 30th. But right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the acreage went up a little bit from this, because we've had decent planting pace, and what is shaping up to be a pretty good crop year if you look at the weather projections. So I'll be talking about yield in the next slide. The USDA has put in place a trend yield of 49.8 bushels per acre this year. I think that's a pretty good estimate for trend yield for soybeans moving into the 2020 crop year. And right now, there's very little late planting. I'm not expecting a lot of prevent plant acres, maybe on average. I know there's been a lot of talk about out in the northern plains and issues with North Dakota, but I don't expect to see excessive prevent plant acreage or any problems with the crop for that matter. What you're seeing here is the Climate Prediction Center's seasonal drought outlook, and what's noticeable is how the main producing regions all across the United States show no signs right now of going into any major drought. So if we have decent weather in the summer, with the kind of planting we've seen thus far, we could see the yield go up. So overall, when you're looking at 2020 crop production for soybeans, depending on what the acreage is, there's no reason to discount the current USDA production projections. And as we move through the summer, barring some kind of setback with the weather, I think we're going to see a pretty good soybean crop. The recent soybean rally was a beautiful thing, and I think there's a lot of hope that we could see it continue. I think it might be tough to get a weather premium in the market right now because the weather forecasts look pretty good for all crops planted this spring. There's some moisture moving into the central part of the U.S., and there's no outlook for drought at all. We've seen China pick up buying, and that is supportive, and hopefully that'll continue over the near term and into next marketing year. And hopefully we see the economic recovery continue at pace, but there's some doubts creeping in on that space, and I think the volatility you'll see in the soybean market is going to relate to the pandemic and how that plays out with demand across the board. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time. You can find my weekly outlook and daily analysis of issues related to Corn Belt farm economics at farm.daily.illinois.edu. I look forward to seeing you around the state of Illinois.